I know this sounds like one of those stories people make up to get attention online, but I promise you, I don't care if no one believes me. I'm just writing this because I need to get it out of my system. Something really strange happened to me last week, and the more I think about it, the more it messes with my head. So, I live in a small town in the north. There's a forest nearby, just outside the edge of the town. People have always talked about it in a weird way. You know, like when old people say things like, don't go there after dark, or that place isn't right. I used to think it was just something adults said to scare kids, or maybe there were bears or wild dogs out there. But over time, I noticed something strange. Even the adults avoided it, not just at night, always. The forest name is Hollow Pines. Sounds like something from a movie, but that's what it's called. It's not even that big, but the trees are packed close together, and it always looks darker in there, even in the middle of the day. I've passed by it dozens of times while walking or biking, and it always gave me a weird feeling. Like the silence near it is different, not calm, just too quiet, not natural. I'm not someone who believes in ghosts or anything like that. I'm the type of person who needs to see something with my own eyes, and until last week, I hadn't. I was walking home from a friend's house. It was about 6 in the evening, and the sun was already starting to drop. I took a shortcut through a field, and somehow, I ended up closer to the forest than I expected. The path I was on ran right along the edge of the trees. I told myself it was fine, that it was still light enough outside, and that I'd just keep walking. But then I heard something. It sounded like someone walking through the forest, but not in the usual way. It was slow, and the steps were heavy, crunching leaves, snapping small branches. I stopped and listened. No animals make sounds like that. I was sure it was a person, but I couldn't see anyone. The trees were too thick, and the sun didn't reach that deep inside. I told myself to keep moving, but then I heard something else. It was a voice, low and quiet, like it was trying not to be heard clearly. I couldn't understand what it said, but it sounded like my name. Not shouted, more like whispered from deep inside the trees. At first, I froze. I looked around, trying to see if maybe someone I knew was messing with me, but no one was there. And the voice came again. It sounded closer, still soft, still unclear. But this time, it was my name. I was sure of it, no question. I did something stupid. I stepped closer to the edge of the forest. I didn't go in just a step or two trying to see who it was. I thought maybe someone needed help or maybe they were lost. But the second I stepped close enough for my shoes to touch the dead leaves at the edge, the voice stopped. Everything stopped, even the birds. That silence, I can't explain it. It felt thick, like the air wasn't moving, like I had stepped into a place that didn't belong to this world. Then I heard it again, not the voice. This time it was a sound behind me. A twig snapped. I turned fast, expecting to see someone there, but no one was on the path. The field was empty. And when I turned back toward the forest, something had changed. The trees looked different. I swear they weren't that close before. It was like they had moved or grown taller. I know how crazy that sounds, but I don't know how else to say it. Everything just felt wrong. I didn't want to look anymore. I backed away, slow, keeping my eyes on the edge of the trees. That's when I saw it. Not a person, not an animal. It was a shape, just a dark shape between two trees. I couldn't make out any details, just that it was tall, taller than a person. And still, no movement at all. I blinked, and it was gone. Just like that. I didn't wait. I ran, full speed. I didn't stop until I got home, locked the door, and sat in the living room with the lights on. My heart didn't slow down for at least half an hour. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that voice, about how it knew my name, about the way the forest changed when I got too close. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But then, something else happened. And that's when I knew it wasn't over. Higher than they should. Thin, almost like sticks. And the print wasn't on the glass. It was on the outside wall, above the window, like something had leaned over the roof and touched it from above. I stared at it for a while, trying to find a reason. Maybe a trick of the weather or some dirt from the trees outside. But I knew it wasn't. I could see the shape clearly. It wasn't made by a person. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I decided to go on with my day and act like nothing happened. But every time I looked out a window or past a mirror, I expected to see something behind me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Not from far away, from close, too close. That night, I stayed in bed with the lights on. I didn't feel tired, just nervous. Every little sound made me sit up. I kept thinking I was hearing soft steps outside, like someone walking barefoot in the grass. Then, sometime around 3 in the morning, I heard something different. It came from my closet. I sleep with the closet door closed. Always. I don't like seeing the inside of it in the dark. But now, it was open. Not wide. Just a little crack. Enough to notice. Enough to feel like something might be behind it, waiting. I stared at that crack for minutes. I didn't move. I didn't speak. And I didn't look away. Then, I saw it. Not a full shape. Just something move. Slow. From behind the door. A hand, maybe. Thin, long, like the one on the wall outside. It touched the edge of the door, but it didn't push it open. It just stayed there. I got up, fast, and turned on every light in the room. When I opened the door fully, nothing was there. Just my clothes and old boxes. I didn't sleep after that. I stayed awake until the sun came up. Then I packed a bag and went to stay at my cousin's place for a few days. I told him I just needed a break from everything. He didn't ask too many questions, which I was thankful for. But the problem didn't stay behind. On the second night at his place, I was sitting in the kitchen, having a drink and scrolling on my phone. He had already gone to bed. Then the lights flickered, just for a second. But right after that, I heard the front door creak. It was locked. I checked it myself earlier. I got up and went to look, thinking maybe it was the wind. But the door was still shut, locked tight, but something small was on the floor in front of it. A pine cone. Perfect, round, fresh, like it had just dropped from a tree. There were no pine trees near his house, not for miles. I knew what it meant. I went back to my room, shut the door, and sat on the bed. I kept the lights on again. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I told my cousin I had to go back home. I didn't explain. He looked confused but didn't push me. Back home, things felt worse. The air inside felt heavy. The light didn't come in like it used to. I heard sounds more often. Taps on the walls, scraping on the windows. Always soft, never loud, but enough to remind me it was still around. I started reading online, looking for anything about the forest. I found a few old posts, stories that sounded too familiar. People who walked by hollow pines and heard things, saw things. Some of them said they saw figures in the trees. One person said the forest doesn't like being looked at, that if you notice it, it notices you back. I don't know how true that is, but it fits. The final thing that made me decide to write all this happened just last night. I was lying in bed, trying to keep calm. The lights were off this time. I was tired of living scared. I told myself, whatever it was, maybe it was just in my mind. But then I heard a soft knock. From under the bed. Not loud, not fast. Just one. Then a pause, then another. I didn't move. I didn't speak. And then I heard it. That voice again, whispering my name. Not from under the bed, from behind me, right next to my ear. But I was alone in the room. I turned on the light in one quick motion. Nothing. No one. Nothing under the bed either. But the window was open. I never opened it. Outside in the street was another pine cone. It sat in the middle of the road, still, like it was waiting. So now I'm writing this here, not because I want help. I don't think help will do anything. I just want people to know, if anyone tells you to avoid hollow pines, listen. Don't go near it. Don't look at it for too long. And if it calls your name, don't answer. Because Once it knows who you are, it doesn't stop. It follows and it waits.